you first. We have Karim Al here. He's been quiet for 30 years, and all of a sudden we have Memoir. You have a lot to say, for someone usually with a few words. Karim Al, a second generation Egyptian American, been traveling all over the world in Europe, Egypt, a trip that really left an impact or trace on him. A trip was taken, 10 years ago?
2010, yeah, about 10 years ago.
10 years ago, Americans want to stay as far as possible from Iran. So tell us a little bit, how did that happen? It wasn't easy to go to Iran at this time.
No, I mean the first thing you find out is that there's no embassy. There's no,
That's not
there's
good.
no, there's, so that's and then you try to look for at in Canada and they're having problems too. So you have to check with the embassy of Pakistan. And not many Americans are checking the embassy of Pakistan either.
Not even Pakistani go to
You
Pakistan.
know, there's ways to go, but they're very carefully managed tours. Like a package tour, they'll take you to the historical sites, but most likely there'll be a government minder there with you, and you have to stick to the schedule.
So who sponsored those tours?
I think you can sign up for them if you're willing to go. You just
Like an
any
American
yeah,
travel
travel
agency
company.
company? I see.
Yeah, and they'll contact somebody in Iran. They'll give the authorization.
So
But to go without following a schedule and having a minder, that's what I was interested in. I didn't want to go on a tour. I wanted to see my friend.
is that too much to ask?
Yes.
Uh, okay, so how do you get a visa without a tour?
So the thought was to have him contact the foreign ministry over there. They give you a number. That's
Well,
what you need.
let's back up a little bit. Let's introduce your friend because he's really the major actor in your traveling book. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with an Iranian here that you met.
Yeah, just a a guy who was interesting in a cafe caught my attention. And over time, watching him play chess and getting invited to sit with them, we became friends. And he was better at going out on the town than I was.
Here in
So
Minneapolis.
yeah, in Minneapolis. This
Okay.
is cafe in Minneapolis. So I trailed him, learned how to go out to the dancing and
Really?
stay out later. The Iranians are good at that. Uh, you know,
Especially the one they are here, not the one over there.
the ones, yeah,
They're
they,
making up for the people over there.
they're making an extra effort for,
But
yeah, the people.
what year are we talking about? Your relationship? What's his name again?
Early Sanjar, but
Sanjar.
yeah, early 2000s, early 2000s.
So you were young. You were what? College?
Just out of college, that twilight zone in between getting a serious job and you have time to meet the people of your city for the first time.
Yeah, really. Because your college was what? Madison or what, in Iowa?
Madison for a while, Iowa, back to Madison,
I see.
London.
So
Yeah,
now you are back in the city and you met this Iranian Sanjar. But it seems like he left a lot. He left a big impact on you.
I just liked his enthusiasm for life. I wanted I wanted to get have that rub off on me. So
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, you were. So you were out of college, and you want to figure out life, and then you met Sanjar. And how did you
well,
end
just
up, going to Iran from meeting an interesting guy on a cafe in Dinktown?
Well, he would uh, describe his. He hadn't been back in a while now, but he would describe, you know, the sort of things that one might see there. Uh, the you know beautiful mountain there, the beautiful people there, and he would kind of entice me that it would be. I would see things that I wouldn't have seen before. I didn't see before, and hear things that I hadn't heard before, and that was alluring to me to go to a place you hear about in the Arabian Nights and kind of thing, to go to a strange place.
Exotic place?
Well,
I mean, you're exotic yourself. You grow up in a mixed culture in your household. You travel to Egypt, England, Spain. You're not like a fresh, typical American that all he saw is just Iowa.
yeah. Well, I don't know. It seemed like it was a kind of an untouchable place for a while. It still
I see.
is,
Yeah, I
and I
see.
think that's that kind of danger and the fact that not many people were able to go, especially Americans.
Yeah. So you got a visa through that conference, and you only got 7 days. So how did you
Yep.
stay a month?
Yes, 7 days. That's the max for Americans and a few other countries, maybe. And what we did was during the conference, there was a dinner thrown, and some big guys showed up there, and somebody told me that's one of the vice presidents.
Vice President of Iran?
One of they have a few. I don't know how the system. Uh, Sanjar encouraged me to speak with him.
Wow.
To say, hey, I like the country. I want some more time to look around.
I hate America.
I'm in no rush to go back. Um, yeah.
That,
So
that's interesting. So you can actually go to the prime minister or wherever one of them and talk and tell them, plead your case. This like because a privilege because you are an American, or anybody can walk to this guy.
well, he was there. He gave a nice speech about there being a need for ordinary people, scholars too, to exchange ideas, and I
I see.
appreciated his point of view. So I thought he would be open to the idea. And yeah, he had his bodyguards around. It was
Oh,
intimidating,
yeah.
but Sanjar is very persuasive, uh,
Wow.
and I was honest and told him I love the country. I wanna stay longer.
How did you prepare for a trip like this?
Well, I didn't know I was gonna get I applied for the conference, and I kind of gave up. I didn't hear anything back from them, and I didn't check my email until one day in the summer. I looked. I said, I got a number here. This no, this number. This is a visa authorization number. And that was 10 days before the conference.
Oh,
So there wasn't much time to wring my hands, and worry. I just had to
wudu.
send it.
Do some wudu.
Yeah, I send it to Pakistan, the Pakistani embassy, get the number, the visa, and get a
Oh,
plane ticket.
so what was that itinerary? Where did the plane leave from Minneapolis to where? There was no direct flight
No,
to
no,
abroad.
yeah, no direct flight. New York City to Dubai, and then from Dubai you go to Tehran.
You talked about your experience in Dubai. I don't know how many days. I'm assuming only a few days there, but you were not really impressed by what's going on in Dubai at the time, or in the still there.
It was impressive. I just wasn't impressed.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are impressed by tall building. Look at my background.
Yeah, yeah. It was just a kind of a incredible, like, unreal place. Just a, a, a bunch of buildings. Nobody's there. Half of them are in the process of being built, and there's no people. I mean, I was there when I was looking around. It was Friday, so it was, one break, but it just seemed like a very, very pretty ghost town.
They try so hard, but not. So you spend a few days and you're glad you left, you're leaving, and you went to Iran. That's not a lot of tall building, but a lot of people there. And I think uh, when you write a memoir, it will take you 10 years to write, and for someone quiet. And I don't know, when were you writing? You're a father, you have kids, you have school. You're a busy man. When did you find the time to write this?
Yeah, 5 a.m.
Really?
Yeah.
Salah
Uh,
Fajr.
I, I didn't I didn't even have any notes when I was there because I was afraid that somebody at the airport would take a
Yeah.
look and say, "What are you doing here?" So I actually started writing on the plane back after hitting hitting Dubai. I said, "Man, I saw a few things I want to remember." I started writing, and um, then the following summer, I wrote some more. I'm a teacher, so I had the summers off, so that I used some of that time wisely.
So the first draft, you write what? You write like a general idea, or you write a conversation you have. What do you write, and then you expand on it? I never wrote more than 700 words, and that's like giving birth.
Yeah, so I don't want to any way compare myself to Dave Chappelle, but something he said,
Yeah.
uh, he said, I just write a sentence on a scrap of paper and throw it in a jar, and I feel like um, I'm at a point where I can just grab that and make a joke with that one line. So when you really get going, you've been writing for a few
It's
days
all back there.
in the flow of things, you can just take a fragment and it just expands. And when you give it attention and time, and memories come back that you didn't, where did they come from? And you can fill in the details. And I had no intention of publishing anything. I was just writing for myself.
It runs
I
in
was
the family.
excited. And then my son said, well, if it's not a journal, I said, no, I'm not writing a journal. He said, if it's not a journal, why don't you publish it?
How
What is
old?
this thing?
How old your son?
He's 15 now, but back then he was waiting to play with me, and I'd come back late from the library, gone from 5 a.m. He said,
Yeah.
where have you been? What do you
Yeah.
got to do something with this?
Yeah. A traveling memoir, usually it's not about the people you meet or the places you go. It is about self-discovery, about going inside you more than.
That's a good, maybe. Well, there's been pieces from my travels that have stuck with me, and I found that writing this was a way to tie them together. They were like random thoughts that needed a home, you know, and the trip provided a structure to, I had to do something with them. These a line or a story that was nagging me, or I wouldn't forget it. So kind of like a wounded animal, either I needed to just let it die in the jungle, or take it and heal it and give it a place to live. But
I like
and
that. That's very interesting. When you read your memoir, you go back and forth. There's no timeline that you can follow, and that's very interesting because a story happened in Spain or in Egypt, and you connect it to what's going on in Iran, and it seems like it doesn't really the place is not that important for the story. It's just people and the ideas just floating around, as you say.
the idea of skipping around, the theme came up of invitations. Like you get invitations to things in your life, and you accept or you don't.
Yeah, you mentioned that that's a lifetime invitation.
Yeah, it's and I was going over times when I've been traveling and people have invited me to stay for good. and
Really?
and I said no, and I was saying, well, what about this invitation Sanjar's giving me to come to Iran? Uh, this is the chance to I don't know what's the result gonna be, but I have to accept it. So
Uh, Tell us a little bit about the Iranians.
uh, the Iranians, we didn't, besides the vice president, we didn't, go looking for trouble or anything. We just talked with ordinary people, looking for some space to be themselves. And where that usually was away from the city on these mountain paths. It's kind of the pressure valve of the city. You have Tehran jammed and everybody heading to the mountains. And the farther you walk up the path, the more I describe it in the book, the hijab would get pushed back a little farther. And we walked really far one day, and I looked and I saw somebody's hair flying in the wind.
Oh my goodness.
So, but, not everyone's looking to do that.
Yeah,
but
I think metaphorically too, ideas, they open up.
Yeah. And it's also a tradition though, it was great for me to see, you're so inundated with these rough, angry images from Iran, your whole childhood, and to see Iranians spread out on a blanket, having a picnic, that's the most important thing. Not America, not Israel, not this or that. Just, is the lamb hot still after this walk? Is there's enough saffron in the rice?
Basic human needs. A lot of stories in your book, it's about men and men relationship, and intimacy in men relationship is very strong in this part of the world. So how did you deal with that as an American?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of open affection that's allowed or more common in the Middle East, I saw that in Spain too. And maybe it's changing in America. I don't know. There's still, but in Iran, I think it's just these cultures where there's the separation between the sexes. You need contact. You need some physical. I mean, not sexual, but just
no
contact.
How did they look at you, the Iranians?
Well, I think I can pass as lots of different things, just the mix. Yeah. So my hair was a little longer. I got it trimmed before I went, but for the most part, I could pass as, there's a lot of different faces you see in Iran,
a long history there.
Yeah. So the mixing of the empire and I think it was the language. When they would hear us speaking English, that would be the signal. Mm-hmm. We would hear somebody yelling, "I found a foreigner!" on the mountain, and he would run with his friends, and they just wanted contact with the outside world, starving for contact, for acknowledgement that we exist. We're hip. I know all the players in Spain. I know what's going on in
they know McDonald's. They know American movie. But what are the most pressing things that they want to tell you about themselves?
Well, I don't know if they needed to outwardly express it. They did that, at least for me, by just being ordinary.
I see.
There was nobody taking me to task for American policy, for sanctions that are choking the country to death. They didn't bother me with any of that. They just we just had conversations about their dreams. We met some young Iranians who wanted to go to Canada. They were practicing their French to take an exam, to go to Canada. Others were practicing their English to just improve themselves, and
So
that was
they
just
look at the West at the place to improve yourself, to escape, or what? Like
that was for the young. That was the of a certain class. That was the dream to go to get a graduate degree, to get a foothold in France or somewhere else. A lot were going to Malaysia and kind of friendlier Islamic countries, and to go to school, and because they very educated people just hit a wall there. I mean, and it's painful to see that how desperate they were to keep growing, and the only way was to get out.
and I'm your uncle, by the way. How come I'm not mentioned in that book, or I'm not there yet?
You not by name. Your experience in Cairo with the guard after the protest.
Couldn't you find something more pleasant? You know, how about the places in Iran? Any places that still leave a remark there? And sometimes place tells a story too.
Yeah, when I got back, there was Iranians who got very mad at Sanjar. They said he didn't take you anywhere to, Shiraz or Isfahan or these
Like the
wonderful
pyramids in Egypt. Oh,
yeah,
they go to the pyramids.
and neither of us were interested in that. I mean, Tehran is not known as a beautiful city. It's functioning, barely, just holding it together, a metropolis. And but people find their nooks, in these places, and that's always been fascinating to me about traveling. When I get to a big city, the first place I look is for a park inside the city to get off the streets. But those parks have such a different feeling than a big, vast, boundary waters. You appreciate it so much, jumping off of this traffic, and that's where we went in Tehran. We found the parks and the people escaping.
Well, the history of Iran, the historical narrative, the places that tell their history.
Yeah, we went to the palaces. There's a grounds where they have a few palaces from over time, and I think even the presidential palace currently is on those grounds in the north of Tehran. And it was nice to see the stories of the Shah's father, who was a village guy, and they made this big palace and ornate room for him, and he didn't want to sleep there. He slept on the floor because it wasn't comfortable. And and then you, on the same grounds, you see just the legs of a statue that was of the Shah, and say, what happened here? Why did they even leave that? And there's lots of little pieces left over to remind people of the change that happened with the revolution in 79. So evidence that a change was made. This is all that's left is the feet. All that's left is the little edge of the lion's paws in the flag. It's painted over by the foreign ministry. So little clues about this very drastic change that happened. And you just notice those, and they're pointed out to you.
Go ahead and read us a passage from No True Love in Tehran by Karim Al.
The beautiful book covered by...
before you go there, what about the name? The name is striking me a little bit harsh.
Yeah. There's lots of ways. That's an actual quote from a cab driver.
Oh, I see. I didn't get to that
in
part.
Yeah,
Interesting.
get to that part. Sanjar met me at the airport with a cab driver he trusted. We gave each other a muscular, unsentimental hug. Seeing Sanjar felt very normal. It was just another setting in which we were friends. I quickly looked at some signs in Farsi to remind myself I was in Iran. Andrew went with a representative from the conference. Right then, our trips diverged. We would enter into two different versions of the country. Andrew would be subject to the airtight scheduling of the conference organizers, and I would be following the jazz soundtrack that is Sanjar's life.
It's a normal story. It's the story of anybody, a story of people who just wanna be recognized as just Iranians.
And I mean, and that's where the fact that it's in Iran kind of brings drama to it, because we were in the Bama Tehran, this popular place to walk, and young man, sat down with his guitar, and very normal thing, you would think, for a young man, college age, to sit down with a guitar on a bench, but you just knew that um, there was another piece to it that was hovering there. And as people kind of got closer, because he played well, um, there was everybody kind of acknowledged that this could become something else. And sure enough, the vice police come roaring in. It's maybe midnight on the top of the mountain, and they take him away. But I was just reflecting on the crowd there. Like, they had to know that gathering around this guy would put him more at risk. But
Interesting.
they couldn't resist. The music was good. It was normal to want to go towards beautiful music and gather. And so you saw them kind of, and that tension there was really fascinating to me. And then even when the police showed up, they knew what to say to the police to argue for their hero.
Yeah.
Give him a break, give him, send him home. And even that became the entertainment itself. And that was a darker side when I saw this confrontation became part of some people's entertainment for the nights. And all these things
Another story.
yeah.
Yeah, you were in Spain and somebody told you it's a crime not to keep writing. What's about this? What triggered all this in Spain? What did this guy read?
No, it was one of these guys you find when you travel to Europe. He was an American who had left and never went back. I asked him, "What are you doing here?" He said, I was offered a scholarship back in the U.S., but it was like it was a silver platter, but it was covered with manure. It didn't look. It was offered to me on a silver platter, but what was on the platter was. So he left. And yeah, so he had been traveling around the world, and he had this manuscript that was his only, that and his passport was his only possessions he cared about. He carried them in a little bag, and this idea of a writer roaming around and trying to search for meaning in life through that way, that was interesting to me. And we would share thoughts. I mean, he would borrow me books. We lived in the same little place by a convent, Santiago de Compostela, Spain, and we would share thoughts. And I would share some poems that I had, and he appreciated a few of them. and a writer surely likes encouragement, smiley faces and compliments.
Okay. Did you send them a copy of the book?
I have no idea where the guy is.
Okay, that's another story. Uh, did your friends in Iran, what was their reaction? I know you were very discreet about mentioning names. Is
Yeah,
Sanjar is the real name?
Sanjar is his name, and I don't think I would go out of my way. I mean, I ran it by some Iranians I know who go back and forth there, and they said there's nothing in there that's cause for concern. I don't have an agenda that would bother the authorities. If anything, I paint a pretty good picture of Iran, in some ways. But I haven't gone out of my way to contact people there about it.
What was the reaction of Sanjar?
Sanjar, he's my friend. So he's that I was doing something that I love and that I was into, that I seemed to be passionate about. That's what mattered to him. He didn't mind that he was the star.
Yeah.
But it's when we get together, we don't go over these things. We play blokus or chess, backgammon.
It is. Go ahead, finish.
No, just there was another thing about the music, and the idea of the history in Iran. When we were walking in another part of the mountain, there was these old men singing. I don't know if you've gotten to that part, but old men singing old songs. And this frustrated Sanjar. He wanted to see something new. He wanted kind of the songs to evolve, and the fact that the young people, they could listen to these songs openly in the mountain because they were the old, folk songs or whatever, no instruments, and they were sanctioned, I guess. I mean, and it wasn't official, just four old men singing together, and I sensed with the young people kind of both a happiness to be part of a tradition. It's a traditional society, but also a touch of distrust of the older generation that had given them this revolution and this kind of society where there's not very many places to turn to grow. And so that was playing out with those old men singing there on the mountain.
How do people get it now?
So yeah, it's available on, of course, Amazon is there, Kindle version. If you're more interested in supporting independent bookstores, you can go to indiebound.com, and that can hook you up to your local bookstore and order it through them. And that's a way a lot of people like to do it. But yeah, it's out there. A few clicks away.
Considering all the bad news going on, this is the first day of 2021, and it's a good ornament here that we have Karim Al, my nephew, publishing his first book, and it's available. So we look forward to 2021 to be a little better than the year that we saw its back last night. So thank you so much for spending some time with us, Karim. Good luck. Would you write something else?
Yeah, I definitely will. Thanks.
Are you on some project?
Yeah, I'm superstitious, so I'm gonna hold the flame close. I think that's an Arab saying. Hold your flame close.
Well, not too close, but good luck, and looking forward to read your second book.
Thanks so much, Sarwat.
We'll say goodbye, and Happy New Year, Karim.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll end this.